Hello, everyone. My name is Dean of the InkGuild. As our episodes tend to be pretty long, this is our Shorthand series, where we compile our favorite stories from each episode for your enjoyment. If you enjoy our content, be sure to look up the InkGuild on YouTube. Catch me editing our recording sessions live on Twitch at twitch.tv/theinkguild_Twitch, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the InkGuild. One last thing, but a huge thank you to Peachy Keen for her song September as Shorthand's intro song. So, without further ado, let's get right into the highlights. How's it going, everybody? My name is Dean, and this is the InkGuild Podcast. I'm joined with my very good friends, Gabe and Jessica. Do you guys want to say hi?
Hey.
Cool. So, for those of you guys who don't know, the three of us, we're each in our own way writers. We've each been writing for a significant amount of time, and with that, we each have our own interesting stories. So, I kind of wanted to do a podcast just to see where we've all kind of come from. And I guess we'll start off with just the earliest days of it. So guys, what were your earliest influences when it came to writing?
I think one of the first, and I've talked about this a couple times in the past with you, but one of the first that really stuck out to me was I was really into the Sandman series. They're very interesting. So basically it's a series of 10 graphic novels. That's how I read them anyway. So it was a comic book series in the 90s, but that's written by Neil Gaiman, and essentially what it's about is it's about these group of characters who are called the Endless, and the Endless are sort of in a sense like the gods of our reality. Mm-hmm. And there's 7 of them. And the stories mainly focus around the main character Dream and his sort of the experiences that he has wandering through an endless universe, controlling people's dreams. When I was reading it in high school, it was sort of the first it was the first experience I'd had with a fantasy story that called to question elements of reality and actually was dealing with these deeper themes. One of the first stories that I read was it was this sort of one-off story where Dream is sort of hanging out with his sister Death, mm-hmm. while she's going around essentially killing people. And I think he says something that really stuck with me. I think he has a line that says my reality and my dreams are so horrifying, and so it's such a dangerous place, and yet the people yearn for dreams, and they seek out to dream. Yeah. But you're such a kind person, and you're so kind to humans in your actions. You give people a release, you bring them to the next world, and yet everyone's afraid of you. Yeah. And I remember as a high school student, that was something that I think really stuck with me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it inspired me to write, but it did sort of cultivate an interest in the cosmic and things that were beyond our understanding. And I think that sort of led me down a rabbit hole that got me into wanting to be a writer.
Cool. All right, Jessica, what about you? What were your earliest influences?
In grade school, elementary school, I remember reading the first few series of Unfortunate Events books. I blew through them in days because I couldn't put them down. It was fascinating to me. It was a realistic world, but not quite. And the whole narration style of a series of Unfortunate Events is absolutely amazing. So I was more of a shy kid, so I didn't have a lot of friends. It was definitely I read a lot at the time, but those are the books that I was really, really into, and I couldn't put them down. But I didn't feel like I was missing anything because I wasn't, outside with everyone else or anything. But I was inside in the library, just like going on these adventures with like 3 other kids. So I think that's like the earliest.
Yeah. So, I guess me as well. I was pretty heavy into reading books. I think the big stories that or the biggest story that really stuck with me, it wasn't even a book. It was, if you guys are familiar with the Bionicles, I fell for the Bionicle stories so much. Like, on top of like the characters looking awesome, like there was like this classic battle of good and evil between different islands, different characters, but generally everything still felt the same, so I could keep myself grounded a bit. So I think between the 3 of us, it seems like world building definitely does play a huge part in what kind of led us into thinking of being a writer. But to ask you guys, like, was there something specific that made you think, oh, I want to be a writer?
I don't know if there was a specific story that made me want to become a writer. Becoming a writer was sort of for me, it was like an end result. Before high school, I wanted to get into video games. I took some courses in the summer to try to learn programming and like video game design. And after a while, I sort of came to the realization I can't do programming. This is not something I'm like attuned with. And I think there's like, I think a lot of people will say like it is just practice. And I do think that there is an element of practice in any skill, but I think there's also a natural attunement that you have to have. Like it's a combination. Like there are some things that like for some people no amount of practice will help. It just doesn't naturally click for them. Yeah. And I think for me, programming was one of those things. So I sort of not fell out of love, but I decided like maybe I want to tell stories in a different way.
Yeah. So you found your niche after kind of like discovering like different ways of trying to tell stories, but like really eventually you kind of stuck with what you're doing right now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in a sense, my youth was basically like the beta testing period for a lot of different ways, I guess, to tell a story until I landed on one that I felt suit me.
Cool. All right. Jessica, what about you? Was there a specific moment, or was it also kind of like a beta test, so you were also kind of like trying different things?
It wasn't really trying different things. Like, for pretty much as long as I can remember, writing stories. From they assigned you short story writing in like grade 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I like tried my hand at writing a story, I was like, this is really fun. I wasn't really confident in my ability, so I didn't really share my writing with anyone for a lot of years. So I would share it with my best friend. We met in like grade 6 or 7. She was also a writer, and she was really the only other person I knew who liked writing stories. We would just kind of share back and forth, but other than that, it was just for me. So it was just kind of always there. Like I don't remember not being a writer ever. So I think once I learned how to read and write and got reading books, I think it was just kind of natural.
Yeah, it's just kind of something that like for me, like I've never not been a storyteller in general, and what made me want to be a writer was I think something kind of like for you. So it started in grade school, and same thing in the States. They would be like, here, write a story, and it could be about whatever you want. And I think I've told you guys this story before, but my first story was a dream I had, where basically me being a kid, like, and me having a bunch of Bionicles, they all came to life, and for some reason they all got like Transformer size. Like they all got like freaking awesome. Yeah, they all got like freaking huge and started terrorizing the city. So it was like the wrong kind of Toy Story. But
that's great though.
Yeah, but I realized then in that moment that, you know what, this was actually really, really fun. It was something that had stuck with me for so long, that fun thing of basically playing God. Yeah, it's always like those early encouragement from your parents and like from close friends, where it's like, it probably means a lot more, like, career wise, to hear good things from professionals, but like as a kid, when you're just starting out, like having an audience already, even if it was already pretty biased anyway because it was you, like I get that, like it's good,
Yeah,
it's
it
good to
was.
have that encouragement.
Words
Yeah,
of
it was
encouragement from like a
definitely.
family member are potent
Yeah.
motivators.
Yeah, it was definitely good to like hear everyone saying like all these really good things, and like teacher gave me a good mark, and like lots of comments and stuff.
This is something I was lately touching on earlier when Jessica, you were talking about like the positive reinforcement that you got from your family. I think there's this idea ever since the movie Whiplash came out, a lot of people have become very attached to the idea that like that negative reinforcement is the go-to and will create good artists. And I just don't think that's true at all. I think
I agree.
Yeah, I
I
agree
think
too.
if you I feel like if you just take someone's ambitions, you tell them they're no good, and that is shit. That's just gonna just make them not want to pursue it, and then they might never be like the great artist that you're trying to brute force them into becoming. I think, like if someone is putting something out there and they're hesitant to put it out there, and someone reads it and they tell them that it's really good, like that's gonna charge them up. Like they're going to be more effort into it now because they're like, not only do I have encouragement, but I have I want to please this person because they made me feel good about my.
Yeah, that's incredibly true.
Yeah, like it's just a way of honoring that initial faith that someone put in you, right? Like whether it was just because of a relationship or whether because they actually did see something in you, like it's good to have someone believing in you during your writing, right?
Yeah.
And we're fortunate to have each other doing that. I for one absolutely believe in everything you guys are writing, and
yeah, you guys too. It'll be good.
Yeah, so like we were talking about earlier, like that encouragement from parents or from best friends or sometimes classes, sometimes a mark, like little things that keep pushing you to keep going. Like it's more that really like keeps you from stopping. Like it helps you continue, right? Like you can get negative reinforcement can be, as an artist, like obviously like writing.
I think constructive criticism is an important part of like the learning process.
Yeah, like there's constructive, then there's obvious room for criticism, like you want to learn how to get better, but like I don't think, like for writing at least, that there's any room for like negative reinforcement. I just don't think so. Like when you already have so much to kind of balance and you want to try to find your own unique writing style as much as like a painter wants to find their own unique art style, like it's good to have like negative reinforcement won't do anything, but like little pockets of positive reinforcement from friends or anything, like even if they have no idea how to write, or even if they have no idea like what you're writing about, like it's just that little encouragement that keeps you to keep going, or that pushes you to keep going rather.
I started taking creative writing classes because I realized like, hey, I'm in my third year of university and what I wanted to study was English, including creative writing, and I haven't taken a single writing class yet, so I should. Like, I want to. Then, of course, I was terrified when I got there. But yeah, I took it to see what I could learn and see what I could gather from it, because a lot of writers say, oh, you don't need to take writing classes, you don't need to go to university for writing. For me, it was kind of like, well, I think that every writer should take a creative writing class of like some kind, to get like a bit of instruction, like a bit of guidance and feedback and like information and like techniques and different ideas. I think it's just better to get in like a class setting, whether it's like online or in person at a university or like at a town hall center or something. That's really helped me taking creative writing classes, is like the reasons my writing got a lot better like pretty quickly. So
yeah. Gabe, were you the same?
Yeah, I was kind of the same. I think when I first started, I saw there were creative writing classes and I saw there were workshops. I think back in like when I started university, I was like, oh shit, that is something I should like really take. One of the big motivators in taking that class was like, I want to surround myself with other creatives and get opinions on my piece, sort of learn better, like how to become better as a writer.
Yeah, like it takes one to know one, right?
So damn badly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I'm not gonna get better by if the only input that I have on my process is my own inner monologue.
Yeah.
Because my inner monologue is always going to either have the bias of this is good or this
pizza.
Is dog shit thrown away. I want pizza.
Just be like, bro, we can
the other thing too.
We can put this on hold. Let's go eat.
I think that's the other thing too. I haven't thought of that. That's a good point. I think when I surround myself with people who are writers and people who are creatives, it motivates me to want to write more. I think like during the years when I wasn't really in any creative writing classes, writing took me so much longer because I was just the only creative input I had was my own dumb brain.
I just want to
so true.
I just want to state for the record that I was like, when I was like for like a few minutes ago, I seriously was not trying to be rude. I was just thinking that Gabe was gonna be like, oh yeah, so I wanted to like surround myself with a bunch of other writers because then I would probably be more hungry. I like, that's how my dumb brain works. That's my inner monologue. It's just dumb. It's like, to go off of what you said, yeah, it's definitely a really good thing to surround yourself with other writers. And for those who are listening who don't know about it, this actually leads into a perfect story of how I started talking to everyone here. So Jessica and I were in the same 1118 class, and then we also moved into the intermediate fiction 2265, still with Micheline, and that's where we met. That's where her and I met Alicia, Brett, Lexi, some really good friends, Matt too, shout out to him. Like, that's where we took our skills, really developed it a little bit more. And funny enough, it was actually through Brett that the following semester I found out that, you know, Jessica, Lexi, Matt, like, they were in another creative writing class. And I was like, and just to tempt me even more, it was also another writing class with Micheline, and I'm like, oh man, damn it. Like, and it sucked because I had my astronomy class in between then, and I really, really wanted to visit that class. Like, I really, really did. So at one point, and I hope my astronomy prof is not listening to this. but at one point I was just like, you know, I'm gonna stop by. I want to see, at first I want to see my friends again, but it felt like I had been missing that kind of atmosphere, you know what I mean? Like it felt like something was missing, surrounding myself with like-minded people like myself, you know, writers. Like, I love the atmosphere of sharing ideas and sharing your stories. Like, it was almost euphoric to me.
Yeah.
And maybe I was just being annoying and I couldn't stay away, but like so that's how one day I stopped by, and some of the I didn't even really, before then, that's when I started talking to some of our other friends, like, you know, Maeve, Brooke, Mari, Brad. Like, I'd stalked, oh no. like I started talking to like them and you, Jessica, like before, before the class, or before I even did that one like drop in. And like I remember, like it's technically a whole new group of people, and I always like hearing new stories. So eventually I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try, if I can, I want to try stepping into this class a little bit more often. And unfortunately coincidentally, quarantine happened. And my astronomy prof, he wasn't doing online classes, but I found out somehow that you guys were. So I'm like, can I stop in? So
hearing, like, Micheline would always talk about, oh yeah, I had students who were published in this class, gone on to publish books and things like that. Like, hearing those kind of stories about people who were sitting in the same seat as you, like, 4 years ago or something, was incredibly motivating. So I think it was a lot of the realization that being a published author is, like, an attainable goal. It's no longer this, like, celebrity type thing. I think that was an important lesson.
Yeah. Gabe, how about you?
Yeah, I was basically going to say the same thing. It's I think one of the biggest changes I've noticed is like confidence and ambition as a writer. The more I feel like the more time has gone by, the more I've been able to feel confident about my own abilities as a writer.
I think for me, like, the biggest thing that I've really taken away so far in being a writer, especially one that wants to do it for the rest of my life, is, I think, patience. And I've touched on that before, but like really, like, I think, and it's a key example because when I had when I had the first draft of the current iteration of Xeno vetted, I was told in final remarks that I had a lot of work to do. And I didn't take it personally, but I remembered that, like I think that's what got me. Like, that really stuck with me since that. Yeah, if I want this to be my debut project, and this to be the catapult to my career, like, and I still want it to be, like, I have to be patient. I have to be careful with how I pace things. Like, I don't, like, I've learned through that I shouldn't try to force anything. Like, if I have an idea that comes to me, then it comes to me and I can jot it down easily. But if it's not, like, I used to think that I had to reach a certain word limit or a certain page limit or a certain chapter limit even. And that certainly does do the job for a lot of writers, but for me, it just doesn't. Like, I'm not at my best when I feel like I have to get this done, right? And because it's my first book and I haven't really published anything creatively, like, I have all the time in the world to do it. But I think that's the thing, patience. Like, I know where these characters are going to end up. I know what they're going to be doing, and I know how the world evolves around them. I just need to remember that it's not an immediate thing. Like, there will be times where passive voice, I can't work around that. There will be times where, I have to use coulds, woulds, shoulds, ises, ands, just to set something up. But that doesn't mean that it's permanent. Like, I can eventually go back after that's been written and change it. Like,
yeah.
I can't be so, what's the word, defeatist about anything anymore. Like, I feel like what I'm trying to say is I can't consider everything that I write final.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're drafts. They're not, like, my next book, like, this book isn't supposed to be done by the end of the year, even though ironically I've set my goal to do that. But, like, my thing with this book is that if I want it to be the best that it can be, and if it's going to be something that people will be buying, then I want it to be I want it to be the perfect result out of patience, not out of talent, because I know my talents and I know my skills when it comes to writing, and that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that I'm guaranteed a success. For all of us, it doesn't really mean that. Like, you might have one or two stories published, sure, but the beauty about being an artist in general is that you always have the chance to improve. I have to remember to be patient. Just work on what you've got right now, and trust that everything will eventually fall into place. It'll all work out. Don't have anything to worry about. You're talented. You're super good at what you're doing. Just leave it be. Let time speak for itself.
And you touched on something briefly there that struck a chord with me just now, which is like publishing and success. I think that's another thing that's definitely changed with time, is the need to be successful. I think that was another thing that like sort of influenced me to want to write from like the perspective of like, oh, like what I think might be enjoyable for other people to read, is because I think when I first got my start, I was writing with the drive being like success. I want to be a successful author. So, and my writing reflected that. It was very try-hardy, I guess. And the more time that's gone by, and the less that I've like really cared whether or not my writing ends up being super successful or not, and more if I'm pleased with it, if I like it, and if I am enjoying writing it, I think that's another thing that has grown the more time and the more time that I've put into this craft.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I've learned from many years as a writer now that being a writer kind of means that you have to be selfish with your writing. You have to write things that interest you and things that you want to write. Like, you can take into account what your audience is saying or feedback you get, but ultimately, like, the choice is yours. It's your story, and like, if you're not interested in it, then why would you expect anyone else to be?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like, if you were to speak to someone about being a writer, so like, if you were speaking to a young writer, like, what would you say to them?
Write for yourself. Honest to God, that is my biggest. That would be my biggest like piece of advice that I think I would give. Like, don't write for the sake of success. Don't write for the sake of trying to please others, because you can have those things and those things are good, but if you, ultimately with writing and with any art, I'd say like just write for yourself. If you want to make a weird decision because that fits your taste, go for it. If you want to have if you want to make your world in the way that you want it, like, even if it's esoteric as balls, go for it. Like, as much as success and pleasing others and making a good story are good byproducts and things that you should want, I think the best advice that I think I can give to a young writer, from my perspective at least, and from my experience, is just try to write your favorite story.
Yeah.
Jessica, how about you? Any words of advice? Any words of wisdom?
I think, like, write a lot. Like, don't write one story and then say, I'm very proud of this story. I'm going to, wait until an idea or inspiration comes to me. Like, writing every day has really, really helped me with, like, world building, and like, even I get more ideas when I write more often. So like, I would just say, like, write a lot, and like, yeah, some of it, like a large percent of it, will absolutely suck. That's fine. Like, first drafts are literally you telling yourself the story and like figuring out where it goes, figuring out who your characters are, and how they act and how they think and how they move in the world that you've put them in. So the first draft is meant to be like worst thing you've ever written, which obviously it's not, but it's meant to feel that way because you're kind of making your own way through the story. Like, writing a lot definitely helps, because again, it's practice.
I think the most important thing that I can tell a new writer, or you guys, or, you know, our friends listening on our Discord, definitely is to be patient. Like, be very patient with yourself. Like, it can be for a postcard story, or it could be for a novella. It could be for a 100,000 word novel. Like, a lot of us are already pretty talented, and a lot of us have some pretty amazing skills when it comes to storytelling and pacing and whatever, but it can be hard to really kind of find that when all you're doing is thinking like, you know, I want this to be the next Harry Potter, or the next Throne of Glass, or the next whatever. Like, don't think like that. Like, like Gabe said, like, trust that your work will be its own special thing. And definitely, yeah, with what Jessica said, like, do write a lot. It definitely does help with with developing your skills in general. But I think overall is to just be patient. Like, understand who you are and understand what you're writing, because no matter what, it's going to be something special that you've created, right? Whether or not your family sees it, or whether or not the entire world sees it, like, that's entirely up to whatever happens once it gets out there. But just understand that as a writer, you've got a lot of potential, and you just need to be careful to not rush it, because the best things that I feel always take their time. So, yeah. That was episode 1 of the InkGuild podcast. Do you guys have anything to plug?